Yes,
Oh,
sir.
Before, you can just stay seated.
Well, no, I just, well, with respect to the water rate, the observation is it looks cheaper up until the point you add in the $15 Chesapeake Bay fee. Then it really escalates. Now, that's a fee. I guess the county attorney could answer the question, if it's a fee and not a tax, is it tax deductible?
I think that any fees that are paid may be able to be claimed by a homeowner on their Schedule A if it's over the threshold. So it depends on that. The bay tax is required. It's it's required even though they call it a fee.
Oh, I see.
So, it is not optional because it's a mandate from the state.
Okay, thank you. I noticed, I'm pleased to see the increase in the tax duplication under the revenue sharing line 311, I believe it is, which reflects the increase this year. Do we have a table as to what the increase is going to be over?
Jerry, I don't want to cut you off necessarily, but we're still in the public hearing. Do you
Okay.
mind if you'll have a chance for public comment here in a little bit?
Okay.
If you want. I don't want to stop you, but we'll
All
just
right.
kind of keep the public hearing rolling. This is just about water. If you have any other comments
Okay.
about water and
No,
water only?
on water. Okay.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And that said, you're welcome to stay up there for a minute if you want to.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other commentary? Did anybody sign up for online contribution? Anybody in the waiting room for that? No? Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll call close to the public hearing for Resolution 001-22, Water and Sewer.
Is it worth going over, explaining again, for those who had missed it, like why we're doing this, why the rates are changing?
It doesn't hurt if you feel like getting the explanation or having Wade do it. That doesn't bother me.
Sure, and we did it online, we put it out there, that let them know that there was a deficit occurring, about $147,000 in the water and sewer fund. And it's supposed to be set up as an enterprise fund where water operations and maintenance are covered by the user fees in general. We've been struggling with this for years, and so we looked at other jurisdictions close by us, figured out what we would need to close that gap and make it a balanced budget. And so this rate with this tier structure was similar to what WSSC and Rockville, although much less than what those two jurisdictions are, but it's the same framework, and it's enough to get us where we need to be.
I think that the two important points you just touched on are that the increase in water rates is not, we're not trying to make any money off anybody. That basically it's just paying for itself at this point, or very close to it. It could end up a tad higher or a tad lower. And the new rates are still less expensive than surrounding municipalities, cities, WSSC, et cetera. I think those are two important things to touch on. And this, I think shame on us for running this deficit for years, but finally we're resolving it, and I think that's a good thing.
Anything else, Martin?
Nope.
No? Okay, that concludes this public hearing for for the water rate, and I appreciate the commentary from everybody on it. We'll move right into our next public hearing. So, good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. The purpose of this public hearing is for the Commissioners of Poolesville to hear public comment on the proposed Ordinance 219. Pursuant to Section 82.13 of the Charter of the Town of Poolesville, the Commissioners shall adopt a budget that provides a complete financial plan for the budget year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. The proposed budget includes a tax rate higher than the constant tax rate. The real property tax rate shall be 0.1781 per $100 of the assessed real property value. It also includes a 2% increase approximately in the water and sewer rates. Tonight, we'll be talking about ordinance number 1, ordinance number 219, number 2, proposed FY23 budget and tax rate, and then number 3, a copy of the March 25th, 2022 issue of the Frederick News Post of notice of public hearing was completed. Public comment can be presented. You will need to call Town Hall again by noon on April 4th to see if anybody did to obtain access for the meeting. You must have access to Zoom conferencing to join the meeting. Written comments are also accepted and would need to be received by 4 p.m. today on Friday, April 1st. Copies of the proposed ordinance can be found at www.poolesvillemd.gov. So in addition, I see Jerry is signed up here, so we'll get to him for just a minute. Do we have anybody in the waiting room on to talk about this?
Nope.
Were there any written comments that needed to be addressed?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So Jerry, I call you to the the desk again that you have
Okay.
not left.
At the risk of repeating myself, I'm glad to see the increase in the tax duplication amount, and I was wondering if we have a table for how much that increase will be over the succeeding years when we find.
They set up a percentage, not necessarily a table, so you have to calculate it out yourself. If
Okay.
it stays that way. It's ever changing anyways, because the expenses for the county change each year.
Right, all right.
A
Go
table
ahead.
that shows it? Oh, okay.
And the other thing is with respect to the Fourth of July fireworks, is that the same amount we've been paying all along?
Yes.
What percentage of that, of the total amount of the fireworks is that?
Jeff, maybe you can answer
Well, I
that.
don't know the percent. I don't know exactly the percentage, but the total fireworks, I don't have the budget like right in my hand, but typically the total is roughly around $18,000. The fireworks, actual show from Zambelli, that's in the range, well, not in the range, it's 13,250. And then each year it bumps up a little bit. And then next year it's 13,500. That's the end of our 3-year contract. Our 3-year contract actually covered us for 4 years because we had 1 year when it was canceled. 20, I forget what year it was canceled, 2020 probably. So our 3-year contract ends 2023.
So basically, you're budgeting 13,500 this year, or for this coming July?
Well,
It says 13,500 in the budget for
Yeah.
fireworks.
Yeah,
And that's for this coming July.
coming July, right.
Okay, but I thought you said it was going to be less than that, and it would only be 13,500 in FY '24.
I did say that, yes.
Okay,
So
so-
this, in July 4th of this year, which is a new budget year, our fee, which we already paid 50%, is 13,250.
Okay.
That was in the budget that I
Yes, it was.
Well,
provided everybody, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. I had one other one. Oh, I think that's it. But what, you're saying, though, that one thing, the tax increase, the property tax, constant yield, we're going to go above the constant yield. Did I hear you correctly, and I understand what I'm reading correctly, or?
That's
or
correct.
It's going to be the same?
No, we're using constant rate, what does yield about $40,000 more.
Right, but is that based on the existing figures constant yield we were given from the state? Or
Yes,
is
we
that,
went with constant rate rather than constant
okay, so
yield.
that 17.81 whatever is the state constant yield figure,
Constant rate figure.
constant rate figure, thank you. All right, thank you.
And that hasn't changed, and I appreciate you bringing it up, too.
No, I understand, okay.
Yeah,
So
good.
it's gone up,
Yes.
okay.
How about, does anybody else have any comment that
Thank
they, regarding this matter? I know it's a public hearing, but Jerry raised a couple questions. Anybody, Mark, do you want further explanation of any of the part of this for the public?
I don't want further explanation, no. I think Wade always explains it well. I do think that in talking about the budget, people should know that I think it's a really, really good budget. I think, I think we should take a second to thank Tony for his time here. And as a result of him being here, we've undertaken a lot of things like a salary and benefits study. And I think that's, if this budget is passed, that's going to lead to like more fair benefits and more fair pay for our staff. That's a really, really important thing. We have a new employee handbook that's excellent. We're going to discuss that tonight. I think that really puts us in a good place. We had an excellent comprehensive trash survey, an HR consultant who Wade has been working with really well, and I think that's an important component. We had a financial assessment done and realized that we have 25 recommendations, seven of which were high priority. And I think that's a great thing. We're going to discuss the MMC consulting report tonight, and we have another list that Tony gave us of things that we could work on. But I think these are really important changes, and in the new budget we have money for an assistant town manager, which I can't stress how important that is for this town, in my opinion. Because the way things are set up now, if something happens to Wade or Wade decides to quit, we are in big trouble, especially if Bobby were to leave. And I think you can't have a town hall that's just, has one person that runs everything and knows all the, where all the bodies are buried and so forth. And like something happens to that person and, there's catastrophic failure basically. So I think that's a great thing, grant writing. I think it's just a good budget. I think, the best budget I remember being a part of, with like new changes and good things happening. So thank you for Wade for that, and thank you for Tony, to Tony for helping us to see some of the things that we could do better.
Thank you for that, Martin. Yep. Great, and I happen to agree, and I appreciate that. Sorry, guys, I have a new phone, so I'm still trying to figure out how to work it.
Another new phone? Did you have a new phone last time?
It's the same, it's got the same faults that haven't been discovered yet.
The man needs his BlackBerry back.
I do, I miss it. I definitely miss it. I know, it's sad. It's sad for me and my family.
And for your fellow commissioner.
And my fellow commissioners, right. I know, yeah. It's still not done yet. I haven't finished it yet, so it's coming. We'll get it figured out. Okay, you guys, let's call a conclusion to that public hearing. Thank you for the input, Jerry. Appreciate the commentary on it as well. So I'm bringing that public hearing to a close, and thanks to everybody for your participation in it. We're at regular meeting time right now, and I just wanted to say that, again, the people that are here, it's all 5 commissioners. It's our town attorney, Jay Gullo, town manager, Wade Yost, town engineer, John Strong, assorted members of the Poolesville community in the audience. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. All right, coming up next, our commissioner committee reports. Carrie, if you could help us with events, please.
Everything's moving along per the original schedule that I talked about last time, and Kathy tells me that we are accepting applications for the summer camp counselors now through the 18th of this month. That's all.
Great. Do we know what the next events are that are coming up?
The next one is the fishing.
Oh, fishing tournament,
Tournament
right,
in
great.
May.
Okay, always a favorite. Thank you for that. All right, very good. Martin, Planning Commission.
I got nothing to report tonight. We're still in the throes of the comprehensive plan. Wade, I was going to ask you, do we ever have any follow-up on that date for the, for lack of a better word, the charrette?
The vision workshop.
The
Yes, I
vision
sent-
workshop.
I sent a,
Uh-oh. Wade got the
I sent
lemon.
an email the other day, just to the planning commission to let them know, I think you should have been on that one too, but, May 14th, Saturday morning,
Okay.
setting that up.
What time is it?
We haven't picked the time yet, exactly.
Okay. I'll wait for
We'll
that
talk about
then.
that next Wednesday, I'm sure.
So yeah, so we're meeting next Wednesday, and that's our big thing is we're going to figure out about what day they're going to have the vision. We're going to have the vision workshop.
Great. And it has did no Willard presentation yet to the Planning Commission?
I heard rumors that that's next.
That still hasn't happened.
Yes.
No, it hasn't happened yet.
So that's gonna, they're gonna be on the April agenda, so next week we'll have them in,
Okay.
as well as Grace Cottages, I believe it is. It's another development. It's Tom Keller's.
There's 3 lots on Fisher Avenue.
You've
Gotcha.
heard of that before, right?
You've already gone
It
through.
didn't have that name, then it had a parcel number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The Longshore?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, very good. So, all right, so we have that to look forward to at the next Planning Commission meeting. Thanks for the report. Ed, give it to us.
All right, so in terms of Sustainable Poolesville, we had a really good meeting at our last meeting. So one of the things that's coming up is just getting a table at the Spring Fest. But what's going to happen at that table is getting people to get into a campaign that will release that information once we tighten up the nuts and bolts. But at that meeting, we had a guest from the community, Erica Reed, who came in, and she shared just some observations where she and a group of friends, they go walking all over town, and then they started picking up trash. So they would go walk and bring garbage bags. And so she came and shared her observations and what she and some of her friends were doing. And so now that's turning into a campaign, and whereas the Sustainable Poolesville is endorsing that. So at our next meeting, we'll go back over some nuts and bolts. We're looking at how to bring some of the youth to get involved with this campaign. And then once all the nuts and bolts are together, we'll come back and present that to the commissioners. So that's where we are.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yep.
Good for you guys. That's good to hear. Okay, great. Thank you for that update on it. Jeff, Parks, Recreation, and Streets.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. So I do have some things that I wanted to make on announcements, but we didn't have that on the agenda, the announcement.
We'll do it after this if you want to stick to Parks and Streets.
Okay, Parks and Streets. So, yeah, our meeting is on April the 6th, so it's Wednesday. And on the agenda, we're going to talk about the farmer's market. I know it's on the agenda for here as well this evening. Also, expanding the natural areas of parks and the park permits that have been submitted. Also, the crosswalk lists. Wade, or maybe it's Mr. Strong, we probably need some help in prioritizing that. Remember, we talked about this probably more than once. Likewise with the speed hump, what's called the speed hump consideration list. So that seems to be ever expanding. And now and then, some folks, they'll just, I'm walking along on the street or something, and someone will come and tell me that they feel traffic control needs to be on a certain road or something. So I try and keep that in, try not to forget it immediately, and then I email it to the Parks Board. So the areas where speed humps are, residents have mentioned it, it's been added to. So that's what's on the agenda for Wednesday. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So for fair access, pretty simple. We're not laying low, but we've got a bunch of advocacy get-togethers that are going to be taking place. We'll call them forums to start, but I think everybody needs to put on their calendar. The date's April 28th. So April 28th, we'll have the 4 candidates for District 2 coming to Town Hall, and that'll be an indoor forum. Link will be monitoring it, administering it. All the fair access team will be on deck, and we've already Kathy knows we're coming in here. So April 28th is that. District 2, it's from 6 to 7:30, right? So that's a great one to come to, you guys. That's number one. Number two is we did get a formal commitment from all of the county executive candidates to be here on Sunday, May 22nd at Wayland Commons Band Shell. And we'll be using all the Springfest infrastructure to bring off a county executive candidate forum. And we've already heard from a lot of people that I think it's going to be we're going to have a lot of people here for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. They haven't really lined up to do other forums yet, so we're going to be one of the big ones right out of the box.
What time is that one?
Same time, 6 to 7:30.
Thank you.
Yep. Dinner will be served promptly at 5:30. Me too. Okay, so those are our 2 big candidate events. Now, we're also going to, and I'm going to ask all the commissioners, and I'll be giving everybody plenty of notice too. We have, in addition to having the county executive candidates, which I think will all be making their way up here, beyond just being here for the forum, there's going to be times where I'll be putting it out there to people. These people are coming up on this day. We'll probably do a meet and greet at locals. And I'll put it on Facebook, and residents will be invited, and everybody can come to it. And we want those candidates to, feel the up county. So our game plan is to bring those in here. And it's not just going to be the biggies. We also have the at-large candidates, which effectively are as well our candidates. So, and we have a number of at-large candidates that I think the plan will be, and we've still got to play this out, but probably at every single commissioner meeting, we're going to do some sort of meet or greet ahead of time with one of these candidates or 2 of them, and then we'll bring them in just to have an intro here, and then we can just send them on their way. So it's a good chance for us to get them in an informal setting, and then also have them be in front of us, and whoever else wants to be here, be on Zoom, they can ask questions. And we've already got some great, the people are saying they're going to show up already, including current council members Gabe Albernoz, Evan Glass. Will Joando's already been here, but I'm sure he's going to come back up. And then we have a couple other candidates. And so there's 4 positions, at-large candidates, that are going to be up for grabs. And we're going to have all those candidates come into Poolesville and learn more about us. We've been sending them, Fair Access has been sending them primers on who we are and what we do and what we need. So we'll be, we've already got our kind of positions staked out with these guys. And still up for debate is whether or not what Republicans will be running for races in Maryland, and then as that takes place, then once the primaries are done, we'll probably have some sort of redo that includes the Democratic and the Republican candidates. We'll see how all that comes together. We really don't know what that's going to look like just yet. But that's a busy fall. No one even knows when the primary date is still going to be set yet. That's still up for a judge to decide once Larry Hogan signs it, and it's hard to keep track of why it hasn't happened yet. So anyway, once the gerrymandering gets figured out, then we'll move forward with that. So that's Fair Access, is a big push. We're also going to have a ribbon cutting for the high school, And do we even have a date for that yet? Yeah, okay. I mean, we should. They've already bulldozed all kinds of stuff. Oh, John's waving his hand.
Just let you know, the sediment control starting to go in, that's why they were excavating.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw the machinery over there working away, so that's good news. It's coming. It's actually happening. So, yeah. Oh, Link, go ahead. Help me out with that. Tell the people where we are.
Community Center POR, which is the planning money for a community center, has been approved. They're already starting to think about how to do that, and they're gonna start having community outreach happening, probably starting in May, but we don't know exactly the timing yet, so that'd be great.
And as everybody knows, most people know, you have to have POR. POR stands for program. What does it stand for?
Program of requirements.
Program of requirements,
It's a
right?
plan, essentially.
Yeah, and so there's 10 or 11 out there. PORs have been designated by the county executive, and so our job is going to be to end up in the top 3, if not top 1, of projects needed. So that's the focus of Fair Access. Is we're going to be lobbying and working on. Link's already done a whole lot of work on this. His tentacles reach all over the county, so it's a good thing, and hopefully we make that happen. So thanks for the reminder on the PORs, Link. That's the focus of Fair Access so far. Thanks, guys. That's all I have. Okay, announcements from the commissioners. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, man, I didn't give you a gap there.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what I was
I
going to
talked too long, and
Oh, I
then
know.
we'll just get to the
Was
next one.
the candidate forum for the county executive is going to be held at Wayland Commons. Will,
Yeah.
will that be streamed on YouTube or whatever
Yes.
it is? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great, thanks.
Yep.
And then, Link, you mentioned some number that was already approved for the POR, money-wise?
$250,000 in the budget is for the plan,
Okay, for the plan, okay, okay,
not for the funding. That,
right,
hopefully the POR, once that's done, next step is getting funded.
yeah, thank you, Link.
And the county executive is the one that designates that money, right, Link?
Right.
Yeah, okay, so that was all part of lobbying Elrich and getting him to commit to further engagement in the Up County through community center wellness, et cetera. So, yeah, good work, good work. The whole Fair Access team working hard. All right, very good. Announcements on, Jeff, I know you have a bunch, but I'm going to start on this end and kind of make our way through since it didn't make it to the sheet. I know. And Fair Access is like spelt right on this one, so I like that. Go ahead, Ed, go ahead, give us any announcements.
I just want to say that Greg Wims behind the scenes has been a strong advocate for Poolesville.
Yeah.
And so while he's not a resident of Poolesville, he has been a very strong advocate for us behind the scenes.
I appreciate it, and I know your friendship with him is great, so keep up the good work, man. That guy's a mover and shaker for us. Carrie, what you got for us, announcement-wise? Anything? Nope, I got nothing. Go ahead, Martin.
I don't have anything.
Jeff, reel them off, baby.
Oh,
We're ready for
I
you.
just have a couple, and I remember when you sent out an email, well, a while back, that it was worthwhile to mention some positives in Poolesville. So I want to welcome the Heather Suskin Photography Studio on Fisher Avenue. There was a ribbon cutting and a kind of a studio tour that took place on March the 18th. And then there will also be a ribbon cutting for the new location of the Poolesville Vision. That's on Thursday, April 7th at 4 in the afternoon. And of course, they're moving from over where your office was, Jim. And then also the Essence Dance Studio, formerly the Hope Garden Ballet, over by the Subway Sandwich Shop. I believe the woman's name is Claire Jones. And there'll be a ribbon cutting and a little tour of her dance studio on Saturday, April the 23rd at noon. And then also, not to forget, the Crossvines grape crushing facility, and that'll have a groundbreaking on Thursday, April the 28th at noon. And also, I want to mention that Poolesville Area Chamber of Commerce is having for their members a gathering at Landmade Brewery on Wednesday, April the 27th, from 6 until 8 p.m. Also, the Poolesville Area Chamber of Commerce is soliciting for advertisements for their directory, and I think the deadline for that is coming up pretty quickly. And I also wanted to give another shout out to Valerie Dickerson. The 11 pallets of humanitarian supplies were shipped from Poolesville to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey it's going to go to a church in Poland. And Valerie's going to let us know when that arrives. The pastor at that church in Poland is going to send us some photographs. So that's what I had. Thank you.
That's awesome. So, Jeff, I think from now on, I mean, I appreciate the chamber updates, and my plate gets full pretty quick, just trying to remember what we're doing on fair access. So if you can bring that every time, that's great.
Oh, thank you.
Because the chamber is really active. A lot of credit to the chamber board and Tom Kettler leadership for getting us going there. So really, really good stuff. Lot of involvement. And it said too, getting. I had a resident make fun of us because we print our directory, but the printing of the directory is a big fundraiser for the chamber. So I'm sure it'll keep on getting printed. Good stuff. So thank you for that. Appreciate that update. Hopefully all the commissioners can attend whatever those ribbon cuttings that they can do. That's awesome. Looking forward to it. All right, approval of the minutes. We'll do individual approvals. We have approvals for the minutes of March 7th, 2022. And does anybody have any question or commentary on those minutes? Link, I thought you were raising your hand. I was going like, no. Okay, good. March 2nd, no questions on March 2nd, 2022. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
Motion to approve the minutes of the Commissioners of Poolesville of March 7th, 2022.
Great. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Martin. Any questions? All those in favor of the approval of the minutes from March 7th, 2022, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, those minutes are approved 5-0. Next meeting, March 21st, 2022. We have to approve the minutes from that meeting as well. Does anybody have any questions on them? Can I get a motion?
I just had one
Yes, sir.
comment. And especially since Jerry is here, on the first page where it says public comment, Jerry Kubielowski congratulated the commissioners on the successful outcome of the tax duplication. He also discussed the broken grates at Tractor Supply, okay about that. But I also remember there was a comment thanking Jerry because he'd been really pushing on tax duplication for a lot longer than we've been alive. Well, not really, but almost.
Some of us. Some of us.
So anyway, I noticed that was absent.
Okay. Sir, do you care to make an addition to the minutes
Well,
recognizing?
I think we should have on the paper here that, Jerry was a main driving force behind getting that finally passed.
Okay, so Wade is going to make that change to the minutes. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Jeff Eck?
So moved.
We have a, that's right, did you raise a question? Or did you raise a question or did you make a motion?
I wanted that added on the paper.
Okay, so you
Yep.
raised a question. So we
Yep.
have a move, we have the motion from Martin and we have a second from Ed. Great. With the amended minutes for March 21st, any other questions? All those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, those minutes as amended have been approved by the group. All right, guys, public comment. So who is in the audience that is up for public comment? Now,
It was perfect timing, Tom.
Yeah,
Tom
so,
signed up, yes.
oh, so Tom is signed up. Thanks for the point over there. Lynn, we'll get to you guys when we get to UVN Granite Crest approval, of course. Tom, give us your name and you don't have to tell us where you live because we know you in all those houses over there. So
Yeah. Tom Kettler, Kettler Four Lines Homes. Just wanted to let you all know tonight that my company has recently purchased what was, I guess, Jennifer Belivo's property. So we just settled on it within the last week or two. So we're excited about that. We're going to be starting clearing probably the next month once we get all the permits. But I just wanted to, let the commissioners know we're excited about it. And Brightwell, as you all know, is coming to a close fairly soon. We have another 3 homes to sell there, and we'll be done. So we won't be leaving Poolesville right away. So I just wanted to let you know that. So, and that's all. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And
I just had a quick question. The property that you mentioned before, is that on Hughes?
yeah, it was formerly the. It's also known as the whatchamacallit.
Yeah.
Ravenel's, yeah, it was coming to me, right, Ravenel's probably, yeah, it's
Thank
Hughes and Tom Fox on the corner there. There are actually 5 2-acre lots there, so we just purchased them within the last couple weeks, actually, so, at any rate, that's all, so, thanks for your time.
any questions for Tom? Anybody? Tom? Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for your continued stewardship
Yeah,
of
we'll-
bringing great houses and great people to
We'll
Poolesville.
keep
We
working on it,
appreciate
thanks, thank you.
Yeah, you do a great job. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? No? Okay, let's go to old business. The employee capacity study, I'm guessing that's Wade.
Let me bring in our consultants. Come on. It's not letting me.
So Jim, the next meeting will vote on the budget and the water rates. When is there any more time for public comment, or was that tonight?
I can't even read that.
I don't know what that says, but
Usually you just tap it right here or this
Right there.
view.
there you go.
Here we go. Yep. Let me steal this back over here. There we go.
All right.
Can you
Very
hear
good.
us?
Can you hear us? No.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we're bringing you up to speed. It's all good. And
Thank you.
Richard,
Good
and
evening.
Richard doesn't want to show his face tonight. That's fine.
Yeah, I got little ones running around, so I'm gonna have to speak in and off the video.
Classic Zoom scenario. It's all good, man. That's fine. We like kids here. Who said that we don't like kids? All right. So if you could just please introduce yourselves again for our audience, and then we kind of turn the floor over to you guys for now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Hanks. I'm the COO of MMC Consulting. We are a Maryland-based, primarily federal contractor, but we do have some experience working both on the commercial sector and also with municipalities, focusing on human resource, workforce development, acquisition support, as well as program management. And Tisha?
Thanks, Richard. I'm Tisha Wiley. I go by Tisha. I am the Human Resources Manager for MMC Consulting. I also own an HR consultancy, Make the Change LLC. I've been working primarily as the lead consultant on the Poolesville project, and the majority of my HR experience over this 12 years has been municipal. So thank you.
Great. So first of all, I want to say thanks to everybody for their hard work on this. And Martin's right. We had a hole in our game, and you guys have helped fill it. We appreciate all the input and the hard work you've put into helping us move forward with this capacity study. I'm sure for a fact we're going to take to heart your recommendations. And Wade, I don't know if you have anything else, or your microphone's on for a reason or not. No. So if you want to give us any overview to the capacity study, you're welcome to. We've all taken a look at it. We're definitely planning on implementing, and Martin, I know you have some thoughts on this too. I'm going to let you jump in. We just want to say up front that it was overdue, and you guys, from all accounts, you've handled it really professionally, and you've given us what Tony called a part of our living documents now, so that we can have a bit more of a template on how we can move forward. So we appreciate your professionalism. Martin, if you want more.
No, I'd just like to hear what their thoughts on it.
Yeah, Ed. Are you guys prepared to go over it with us and give us your, kind of the inside line on the capacity study?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
All right. So with the capacity study, what we did, I know you said you've read it already, but what we did was we took 5 towns and we tried to compare towns similar in the area to Poolesville and similar in size. What we wanted to do was assess how they operate from an operation standpoint. And so we reached out to those 5 towns and we asked them to send us job descriptions, org charts, if there are any positional duties that were different from their job descriptions, to let us know that, because that's, really important when we do conduct an assessment. And we wanted to compare those things with Poolesville. So as you can see throughout the study, it was a little bit different. The setups were a little bit different, or the structure, I should say, were a little bit different from Poolesville structure. A lot of even the smaller, a few of even the smaller towns had more employees. And so what I wanted to do was dig a little bit deeper in communications with those towns and ask them, what some of the differences were. I can let you all know that several of them had more administrative support staff. However, some of those staff positions some of those positions were vacant and some of those positions were part-time positions. And again, the duties that they had were a little bit different. Each of them or most of them also had human resource information systems. So they had a platform that handled a lot of their HR processes instead of manual processes. Some of them did have some manual processes as well. So that, led to a little bit of the differences. More specifically, as far as the support staff they did have, some of them had executive assistants. They had treasurers separate from the town clerk. Some of them had an assistant to the town manager. And so the breakdown was just very different. Some of the budgets were different as well, of course. And so I wanted to try to figure out where Poolesville stood in terms of the responsibilities that employees actually do have. It was very interesting that we did have the employee feedback survey to also use to give us some insight into how the employees themselves felt about if they were overwhelmed or overworked, where, additional staff may be needed. And so with all of those things being considered, what we were able to, identify was, I had mentioned earlier, the human resource information system, that Poolesville does a lot of more manual processes with the human resources structure. And so an HRIS system would be really helpful with alleviating some of those duties and responsibilities from the town clerk, or if you decided to, have someone else handle those duties, for them to be able to focus more on some other responsibilities, freeing up, some time and availability for them. Also, just some minor things such as email. Email is a really good tool for employees to have, even with field employees, because a lot of the times if they were to set those up, on their phones, and communication would be a whole lot easier and more timely. But the bigger part that we did identify was the need for the town manager to have some assistance. So when we were looking at, and I was mentioning this to Tony as well when he was asking about the labor category, and I'll get to that in a second. But when we were looking at the responsibilities and how things have changed over the years and what the town manager's expectations are, very, very fair, but also there seemed to be a need for an assistant to kind of help with some of those responsibilities, so those could be handled more effectively. So our recommendation, first and foremost, was for the town manager to have an assistant. We just titled that position assistant town manager. If that ended up being something more of like a project manager, that would probably work for Poolesville as well. The other position that I did want to speak of, and I briefly mentioned, was an additional position in one of your labor categories. What we noticed specifically with the employee survey, because we kind of did this in conjunction, as I mentioned earlier, but what we noticed with the employee survey was that in the labor categories, there was a lot of comments about being, on call a lot, not being able to really schedule like vacations and time off due to being on call. The responsibilities being, because you all are smaller, the responsibilities being split between, a lower number of staff. So that means that they were working more overtime, being great. It's great to be paid for overtime, but having to work so much overtime and taking time from families. And so when we look at the work-life balance, that's something that we thought about when we consider the overtime that's being paid to employees and the on-call as well. If you compare that to what a regular additional position would be, you probably see some savings there. So it seemed more feasible instead of, paying out the overtime and having, so many employees on call to maybe have an additional position in your labor category. So that's pretty much the gist of the summary. I'm not sure if you all have, or what questions you all have for me or for us.
Thank you for this. This is really enlightening and excellent, and I appreciate you doing it. I do have a question. So in our budget, that we're hoping to pass soon, we have money for an assistant town manager, per your suggestion. We also have money for a part-time grant writer and some money for economic development. Have you ever heard of a scenario where you combine those two positions? Like, somebody would be, somebody's job responsibility would be grant writing as well as economic development and maybe finance or something like that? I mean, is that something you could see fitting into our puzzle in addition to an assistant town manager?
So I had one time I've ever heard of that position being combined, and I will tell you that it was split. And the reason why it was split was because sometimes the grant writing responsibilities are somewhat cyclical, meaning you may have times where there's not a whole lot of grants that they're pursuing or writing, and then there may be times. So the peaks and lows. There may be times where there is a whole lot. And so what started to happen in this particular municipality was that that person trying to write all the grants and handle all of the economic development opportunities, because that's also, it also has its peaks and lows. There were times where that individual was very overwhelmed. And so the municipality ended up splitting those. And essentially that grant writer became a part-time position because, they could call on them when they needed them. And the economic developer ended up being the primary full-time position. So I have seen it happen, but like I said, in that particular situation, it was split. Most of the other times where I work with municipalities, there are two separate positions, I think, for that reason.
Thank you. It seems to me that I think you kind of alluded to this in your report, that in addition to an assistant town manager, it might be helpful to have like another support staff person within town hall to help out. I mean, it seems like they're overwhelmed, and like I know I've taken this upon myself, and I looked at some municipalities, not the same ones you did. I looked at like Middletown, and I looked at Brunswick, and they have, they're very similar in size, and they have staff, two or three times the size of our staff within town hall. It just seems like, the more redundancy we have, the less potential for, if somebody leaves, like things go south or whatever. So how do you feel? What are your thoughts on that? Like having an additional person besides the assistant town manager?
So one of the positions, so you have an events coordinator position, and that events coordinator position has seen a lot less responsibility just simply due to COVID. And I do fully understand and am aware that, of course, that's probably already starting to, increase, but it will likely increase, over time as well. And so presently it would have been, or it would be, I think, sufficient for that position to assume some of the duties maybe right now that you're looking to have an additional, staff person to come on and to handle. I'm not really sure. I know that at some point that probably wouldn't be maintainable. And so you would need another position, but just depending, I wouldn't say that it's a bad idea to write the position into your budget so that it's something that you have going forward. I just wasn't able to completely identify where if you added a town manager and then consider assistant town manager, I'm sorry, and maybe automated some of the processes where there was an immediate need for a full-time additional administrative staff person. But that's not to say that that wouldn't be something that you all need in the next, 6 months to a year. It just depends on what your strategic goals and where you're trying to, what all you're trying to do as far as additional responsibilities that the existing employees may take on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And some of these automation things you've suggested are great. I mean, I think that, this is sort of like, sometimes I think we kind of live in a bubble here and like, don't always ask for outside help. And when we do, we realize that we have some weaknesses. And so I appreciate you guys working with Wade and everything Wade's done and to get us in a better place. Thank you.
Other questions from
You're
the
welcome.
commissioners? Thanks, Martin. Any other questions from the commissioners? Discussion? Ed?
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for the work that you guys have put into this project. I was just thinking, just for my own interpretation, when we look at just doing more automated type of processes, and I'm wondering to what degree, if we increase those automated processes, then might that mitigate the need for how much additional staffing or the type of hours? And I also took note that in some of the other municipalities, they have part-time employees. One of the things that I keep in the back of my mind is when you bring on additional staff, you bring on additional costs, and you bring on those things that need to be sustained over time. Because also think about what happens when you increase your efficiency through automation, and then you also have new people who come on board, build relationships, and what's the longevity of a new position that comes on board, and is that position sustainable? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I'm just curious that we would be on the conservative side of maximizing automation first, and then looking at where gaps still lie, and then fill in those gaps with people.
And you're exactly right. And so with an HRS system, there are so many different functions. So for example, you can have a learning management system within your HRS system. You can have a performance management system. You can also have the payroll side for the HRS. So depending upon what you choose to have right now, the recommendation is at minimum the payroll side. But depending on what you decide to have, often your HRS system can keep you from having to bring on additional staff, even when currently there may be a need for one. And the reason for that is because the HRS system takes away from a lot of, like I said before, the manual processes that your existing employees are handling. And so within, if it takes, 3 months, it usually doesn't take longer than that. But if it takes 3 months for a person to kind of learn the system, to implement, the HRS system, after that, you'll start to see the person's time on average kind of decrease by about half, because they're doing the same amount of work, but the system is doing a lot of the work for them. So you're exactly right about, whenever you start to automate processes, you start to see the need for an additional staff people kind of decrease. I don't think that you would need to, of course, reduce your existing staff, but I'm not sure if bringing on additional staff would be something that would be sustainable.
It was a good question, Ed. I appreciate that. Anybody else questions for these guys? I mean, it's good stuff. Jeff, anything?
Well, I don't want to seem completely ignorant, but what do we use for our HR system now?
QuickBooks.
QuickBooks, oh.
So QuickBooks is pretty much, it can be a cloud-based system, but it allows for more manual processing. A lot of people use QuickBooks. However, when you transition from QuickBooks into an HRS system, what happens there is that the likelihood, so there are some input issues where the user can input things incorrectly, but there's a system, a better system of checks and balances in an HRS system to make sure that there are not the same type of manual mistakes that are made. Like I said, QuickBooks is used by a lot of organizations, but the majority of municipalities do use an HRS system. So, but yeah, you all use QuickBooks right now, and our recommendation is to switch over to a more cloud-based HR platform.
Thank you.
So Wade, does this give you enough, are the specifics in there of the suggestions to automate, enough for you? Do we need to work with them anymore on specific things?
Oh, definitely. We have some ongoing projects we're working on right now, but definitely as we're transitioning and making these changes, the door's open now, so.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I like the idea that these guys came up with for automating email, for giving everyone an email address. Is that something that you think is feasible?
I'm gonna check with the guys. I don't know that they all actually use email even in their personal lives, so some of them don't.
How do you communicate with them? Is it like a text distribution or?
Typically, we just go directly to the supervisors and it trickles down from them. They have their morning meetings. It's a whole tailgate sessions on Friday evenings where you're planning for the next week. So whatever's, happening, it happens daily, and it's a small, 6 guys in this department, 6 guys in this department, 3 guys in that department. So it's
And if you have 401k information to hand out, you just hand out physical copies instead of sending it to an email or something?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
But yeah, that's one of the things we're looking at setting up too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for doing all that.
Great. Okay. Anybody else? Carrie, anything for these guys? Well, listen, I know your mission's not done, but I really appreciate everything you guys have brought to the table. And it's been a kind of an interesting confirmation of our direction, and some enlightenment as well. And it just seems like a long time ago when we first engaged you, but time flies. So and your work has been obvious, and it's been very helpful. So I know we'll be coming back to you for more. Martin, go ahead.
Wade, did these guys help with the employee handbook, or is that?
Oh, yes, they came up with the initial
Yeah, I'd like to compliment you
Yeah.
on that. That was
coming up
well,
next.
very, very well done.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
And you can stay online because that's what we're talking about next. So anything else about the capacity study? Very good stuff. Okay, on the employee handbook, Wade, do you want to give us an intro on that and keep these guys on the line here?
Sure. So I sent over to Antisha the final draft, and then as well as the red line stuff that we were looking at. She was very glad to see that we were doing a lot of things positive for the employees in the book. So Jeff and I had a conversation today, and there's some additional red lines as well as some highlights from discussion points that Jeff wanted to go over tonight. So I tried to, in the sake of trying to be as efficient as possible this evening with this, I sent it out, so I hope everybody got that in their email. Okay. So, okay, yeah, sure. So we'll walk through it real quick. And when I do print it, it does have page numbers. I don't know why. The Google Docs, when I attach it, it does not have page numbers. They're all wacky. I know. So we're gonna go all the way to, let's see, where's the first start here? Page 13 was the first red line version, and I'm sorry, I don't know if you have this or not, Antisha. Some of you will. There was the very top of the page here, we talk about unless otherwise recognized or required by law, overtime pay shall be calculated based on actual hours worked, the rate of 1.5 times the regular hours. Time off and sick leave will not be considered hours worked for the purposes of performance overtime calculations. Before it added vacation and any other leave of absence. I redlined and took those out because if someone uses vacation, and a prime example was right before this last snowstorm, Preston was on vacation that week. We had a storm on Saturday. He had to come in that Saturday, and he did get paid overtime for coming in on Saturday. We want him to come in and do, we do overtime. It's emergency basis. Guys doing water main breaks and things of that nature. So it's not like, just doing it for the sake of trying to just make sure work done or something like that. It's on an emergency basis. So that's more in line with what the guys. And I actually sat down with all the guys too and had a session with them in here and walked through all these things. So this is where all this is actually coming from. The other paragraph here, there were some exceptions to overtime pay in the 40-hour work week. It talked about Saturdays and Sundays and holidays. When we pay holidays, we do double time. Many times Thanksgiving is like, it's cursed. You have a water main break on Thanksgiving. It happens so many times. But that's the double time pay. And here they kind of excluded that. So the whole paragraph, we just took that out. Comp time was something that was not addressed at all in here. And, Preston does meetings, I do meetings, Kathy does meetings. So comp time is a regular thing. And so I put that right from the Fair Labor Standard Act, how they detail how it should be applied. And so we included that in here. And that's it for that page. Jeff did want to talk about dress and appearance. So we offer $100 allowance for boots and $200 for pants per year for the field people. And, we discussed this with the guys. They said, hey, I can't buy a pair of boots for $100. And I said, I know, we're not trying to buy you a pair of boots. We're trying to supplement your boot purchase. But Jeff, you wanted to speak to this.
Well, yeah, I go into the Red Wing store now and then, you cannot buy a pair of, decent steel-toed work boots for $100. They're $250 and up. And and this isn't an annual allowance where maybe your boots are going to last you 2 or 3 years and you could kind of save up for a new pair of boots. And when I just saw that, it just looked totally out of place because, decent boots or steel-toe boots, they cost more than that. And I would like to see that number bumped up.
How long has the number been $100, Wade? Has it been years and years and years?
It's been a long time.
So I guess Jeff's probably right with inflation. Maybe we bump it up. 110. Okay.
Get some shoestrings.
What would it? I'll ask you. What would a fair number be? 200? I don't know.
I think 200 would be more than fair.
Okay.
And again, it wasn't, to fully, provide total dress
Right, just
top to bottom, but.
Yeah. I have no problem increasing that by a little bit.
Thank you.
Anybody else have?
No, I'm good with $200. I think that makes sense. That's what a good pair of boots. You can
Okay,
still
so
barely get that for $200.
So heads nod. So-
That's a consensus.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then there was a typo there that no one caught except for Jeff in the first sentence there.
Well, that's what Jeff is
He
here
caught two
for.
of
It's
them,
good.
actually.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other changes on the red line version?
No, so on page 16 here, this is one thing we started talking about last time about smoking, including vaping and smokeless tobacco. There was conversation about, we want to smoke-free environment workplace. Smoking is not allowed inside town buildings or vehicles. Smoking is not permitted while performing job duties. There was a question about should town property be included in this? And that was a discussion point.
Yeah, my 2 cents when I was talking with Wade earlier today was I kind of felt that smoking should be disallowed on town property, including the parks.
Well, it already is just allowed on parks, correct? Because no one's allowed to smoke in parks.
That's correct.
Either employee or resident?
It's in the regs and rules, yes.
Well, so Wade, besides the obvious, what are the disadvantages to including town property? I mean, I can kind of see some, I think.
Disadvantages is it's inconvenient for staff that
Drink
smokes or
fest.
uses
Where would they
tobacco.
go if they weren't allowed to go on town property?
Um,
Besides my back porch?
Well, you offered to put a gate in your backyard for Bobby, I heard.
The toll.
That was kind of you.
That's right.
It's mostly, this has to do with the wastewater treatment plant and leaving the grounds of the wastewater treatment plant, I would imagine.
Yeah, but it's gonna work, all as one or none at all, so.
I mean, I personally can see advantages to doing that. I mean, certainly, Tony had good points about, we're paying our health insurance and to some extent, our insurance is, correct me if I'm wrong here, our insurance goes up or down based on how healthy our staff is.
Well, yes, that's certain.
So, I can certainly see incentives for discouraging smoking, but at the same time, if the crew is gonna smoke, they're gonna smoke, and, I hate to, are we gonna end up costing ourselves time because they have to go, drive 15 minutes to go legally have a cigarette or whatever. So I kind of see both sides of it. And I guess, prior to tonight, my tendency was to not include town property, to allow them to smoke on town property. But I'm up for a discussion on this.
I really don't have a feel for it either way.
I'll tilt it just a little bit for you. It's almost all vaping. And I don't necessarily, if you see our guys, obviously nobody's smoking cigars, nobody's smoking weed, nobody's smoking cigarettes for the most part. So most of it is vaping. So you're going to be asking the guys to go off property to vape. And I'm not sure that's where I want to go right now with that. I mean, I could see if there was a big smoke fest going on, but that just isn't how it is for the most part. So it is mostly vaping. And they definitely, and I see the guys vape, and I see them, doing it, not on the job necessarily, and certainly not in their vehicles. But it's, I look at it like they're trying to kick smoking, versus, doing something necessarily bad for our property. So, I'd like to see us not change that policy.
So Wade, do you have, if we left this to you, which I mean, maybe this is your job ultimately to decide it. You're sort of torn. What would your default be?
No smoking on town property
Really, or vaping?
or chewing.
And explain a little bit about that. Why the hard line there? Besides, I mean, just the insurance thing and the health thing, and
You're not gonna get a discount on your health, and all of our guys are pretty young, so the impacts of their tobacco use isn't impacting them right now. But I just think as a whole, like going out in front of town hall or smoking, it's not in the park, so you could smoke in front of town hall for that reason. I don't think it looks good as far as just a public perception.
I think we're just way behind the times on this too. I mean, most municipalities, most counties, most states have this law. So I don't know why we wouldn't do it.
well, I put a lot of weight behind what you think, Wade. I mean, because you're the town
I've warned
manager.
them it was gonna change.
You've been doing this for a while.
And then some of them mentioned that you put $1,000 bounty out for those who would quit smoking, and several were gonna start smoking. That was part of the discussion.
Yeah, well. So I'm curious. I know I've heard Jeff's thought. Jeff, you're in favor of not on town property. Jim, I know you're in favor of it. Carrie, you're against it. Ed, what do you
Well,
have
Jim
to
was
say
kind of in
about
the
it?
middle.
I'm in
Vaping.
favor of not making a change to our current, what's in the book right now. So I don't want to necessarily change
I'm curious to
that.
hear what Ed has to say, but I would tend to go with Wade's recommendation, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I would go with Wade's recommendation. I think, Wade, you're closest to the folks that are working. You're there every day. And so I think that you've been doing those warnings, so I would support your position on that.
I know at the fire station, smoking is completely forbidden. Any type of smoking, vaping or anything like that. But part of the reason for that is because you also occasionally work in a smoky environment. And then later on, if you come and contract, hopefully you don't, but some kind of, bad disease like cancer or something, then the county is liable, and then they don't know if it was because of your smoking or because of the work environment. So it's, but it's completely forbidden on fire department property.
Thank you. Martin, anything else, buddy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, two things. Wade, are we prepared to, like, if we're gonna make this a rule, are we prepared to, like, is it really gonna be a rule? That's number one. And number two, since we have these guys here, I'm curious what you guys have seen, Antisha and Richard, like, in terms of, like, are we one of the last municipalities like this? Any insight on that?
So I'm glad you asked the question, because I did raise my hand and I was like, oh, I just want to jump in really quickly. So with the smoking piece, so and I was just going to make the recommendation that you check with LGIT, because a lot of the times your premium is directly tied to whether or not you state that you have a smoke-free workplace. I didn't get down into the weeds of that part of it, so I couldn't answer that for you. I'm sure I could find out. But if your premiums are what they are because you are considered a smoke-free workplace or not, that may be something that will change. A lot of municipalities and a lot of insurance companies are working together for health reasons to make their locations, their facilities, their properties smoke-free workplaces. So the one thing I was going to just recommend is to maybe look into that. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure Bobby can probably look into that. She may be able to answer it for you, tomorrow. But to make sure that you consider that when you are deciding whether or not you want to approve it or disapprove it. But like I said, most municipalities don't allow smoking of any type on their properties.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
And I did check with their insurance company. We had our annual renewal meeting this afternoon, actually, and that question came up. She said, no, your rates as you're self-insured are based on your number of claims and the pool's claims, and has nothing to do with as far as non-smoking. So.
Okay, well, I'm prepared to go with your recommendation, Wade.
They'll all be mad at me.
Right. So I think we have a consensus. So if you want to make that change, Wade, I
Okay.
appreciate it. Is there anything else on the red line version, or are you going to go back to this?
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Is it possible, since there are some employees that vape, is it possible to make an exception for vaping? Like, you can't smoke, you can't have cigars, you can't have chewing tobacco or whatever it is, and vaping is permitted?
I don't think so.
Antisha,
No.
So I don't know if you saw me shaking my head. So it's possible to do it, but I think it's going to create more problems than what we may be anticipating, because some people are going to say, well, smoking is smoking. So whether it's a vape or not, it should be the same across the board. And so legally, there's not something that says you can't do that, but I would recommend against it.
Thank you.
so Jim, what I'm going through is red line version plus Jeff's comments.
Correct.
So I'm trying, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Keep going.
So moving on, we're moving quick. We got it. Let's see, yeah, page 21, health benefits, it had 85% in there, and through the budget session, we're gonna go with 100%. Payment of premiums for employees, vision and dental plans also. And so, the red line version said employees may select dental and vision, but they had to pay their full premiums themselves. That's been deleted. And then we also added the group health benefit plan opt-out. So we should have this in place. So those who don't use insurance, and they show a waiver or that they have insurance through a spouse or whatever, then they get a $5,000 into their health care or their 401A plan on a monthly installments.
That's a smart thing, because it saves us money, they get some money, and
It also does, some companies use it to provide an incentive for their employees to use their spouses.
yes.
So it could save money in that terms also.
And I like the fact that you have something in there saying, like, you have to prove you have some insurance. We don't want you working here uninsured just to get the $5,000, yeah.
Okay, so then moving on.
I had a comment on page 16. I had a comment on page 16, and I think we skipped it.
Okay,
It had to do with, now it's not on here. It's on the old page 16.
what section?
Where was I? No, I'm kind of lost. I gotta see if I can find it again.
Outside employment?
Well, that one too,
You and I
but
talked about that
Yeah.
today. I thought we cleared that one up.
we talked about that. No, I'm trying to find it, sorry. Oh, yeah, so, maybe we're not there yet, page 23. And, the one about use of equipment, Wade,
Oh, yes, I thought we had that one settled.
did we solve that?
Yeah, private use means not helping the fire department put up a fence, but it's private use me taking the backhoe home to dig a pool.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, moving on, benefits during leave on page 25. There was a section that talked about employees who fail to pay their health insurance premiums in a timely manner while they're off leave. Well, they're not paying them anymore, so that paragraph's wiped out.
Great.
Then there was also the Native American Heritage Day.
I Googled it, it's a real thing.
Well, I no doubt, but in Poolesville, we celebrate that the day after Thanksgiving, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, then moving on to page 32, substance abuse and weapons. So there's a clause here, and it says employees are not permitted to use or possess alcohol beverages on town property at any time, including at town-sponsored and social events where the town permits alcohol. So the question was from Jeff, as well as after I brought it up with Maggie and everybody, yeah, they've come to Springfest and when they're off duty and had a beer, so would that be illegal? And Tisha, what do you think?
So if it's written in the handbook, it's going to make it appear that it's wrong, it's not allowed. My recommendation on that, and I think Tony and I kind of had discussions on this one, it's more so, for example, if you have a town-sponsored holiday party, right? And there's alcohol there and they drink and something happens due to the drinking, the town could be held responsible for that. However, something like the Spring Festival is a little bit different. It's a little bit different because it's not specifically for town employees, if that makes sense. So if the Springs Festival is for, all town, the residents, citizens and everyone, it's a little bit different. So it's not illegal. It wouldn't be illegal. It wouldn't be wrong for them to go to the Spring Festival and have a drink if it's being provided. There may be an issue with perception, if something happened and they were drinking at a town sponsored function, but it's very different from if it was specifically an engagement for employees only.
Sounds like lawyer language to me. We need to get Jay to write. I mean, I'm good with them coming to Springfest and having a beer or whatever. You might want to include something that a reminder that you're expected to act with
Well, that's
as representative from the
that'd be
town.
fine,
You're supposed,
right.
You shouldn't get hammered and pass out in the field or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if
Like the volunteers? Yeah, that's the volunteers' job.
that's right. But between Wade and Jay, if you guys could parse the
Need some language on it.
While on duty, it's usually
yeah, no fun.
But what if you go fishing at the pond with a beer? It's not allowed by anybody, but.
Wait, I wanted to add my 2 cents on that because when you and I spoke, I thought the purpose of this was, so let's say, you're off duty, or you're off work, you're an employee, but you're off work, and you go to Springfest and you're, with your buddies and you have a beer. But that's different, at least in my mind, if I'm on duty, like I'm the one that's being paid to, I don't know, do whatever, empty the trash bins, or I don't know what it might be. But if I'm on duty, like that's my work hours, then I would expect if I'm on the work hours, I wouldn't be allowed to have any drinks.
Absolutely.
I think you need to put on duty and then copy the line that they have under weapons and maybe something like, as allowed by law. So obviously, when they're on duty, they're not allowed to do it. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. They're off duty and they want to go, he gave me the example, they're going to fish at the pond. Nobody's allowed to drink at the pond. So it's not allowed by law.
Maybe that would fix it right there. There you go.
So I'm happy with a red line correction on that you can circulate prior to the next meeting, so we can get this approved hopefully at the next meeting.
If you want, I mean, you
Yeah.
don't see why they can't approve it tonight as of.
You can still
as of-
I'm okay with it
put
if you're, say, as amended, that's fine by
That's all
me.
the comments and stuff that I had, Jeff. Did you, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I'd love to get it approved tonight.
And I think you need to add accept in one language here. I'll tell you.
Okay.
What about on page 25 about the town paying 100?
So the boots? We got that one.
All right, thank you very much.
Just reiterate, like, my thanks to Tony, to Wade, to you guys. Like, this is a really great document, and not much excites me about being a commissioner, but this is really exciting. This is great. This is good stuff.
And Wade, I may have asked you this already, but did you already present this to the town staff?
I had everybody sit down in here, I brought sandwiches in, and we had a good session during lunch and talked about everything.
Was there any reaction, like good, bad, indifferent?
No, like I said last time, it was more about understanding and bringing clarity to some of the issues. But the boots were a thing, so they're going to be happy about that. But everything else was in their favor, really. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I hope
it's really
so, yeah.
stacked in favor.
Have you had feedback about the proposed budget and the changes to the benefits and everything?
Oh, they're stoked about it.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad.
Okay, anybody else? So we have Wade to make slight modifications to the already red line cleaned up version of this. And do we have any other reason why we can't approve this, the revised employee manual as is to be, a handbook to be distributed and become our guiding document with final copies to come to all of us?
Does it need a formal vote, or can we
just,
say that we're good with it?
Consensus or vote?
I think you need a motion, and I think you need an effective date.
Got it.
I'll make a motion.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
one
go
second. The, what do you, are you comfortable with in terms of an effective date, Wade?
April 18th,
Okay.
because that coincides with adopting the budget and the raises and everything else, so everything,
Okay.
that all comes into play.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion, we approve the employee handbook with revisions specified tonight, effective April 18th.
Very good. Do we have a
I'll second
second?
his motion.
Thank you. Second from Ed. Does anybody else have any questions or discussion on it? Jeff, thanks for taking a hard look. Thank you guys over there on the backside there for your work as well. Appreciate it. Anybody else? No? All those in favor of approving the motion as mentioned, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, you have your marching orders. Team, again, on Zoom, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
help.
Antisha. Thanks,
We
Richard.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Nice work.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yep, and I think you're done for the night, right, guys?
Okay, well, thank
Okay,
you,
good.
everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. All good. All right. New business. We're under the UPN grant request. If you guys want to come on up, we appreciate it. Tell us who you are, what you're doing.
I got it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Are you not ready to move forward? We're on
go ahead.
grant request. You want to take a minute or are you good?
No,
good.
she
We'll catch
can
up.
run with it. She's got it.
Okay,
Rolls.
great. Thank you.
And I'm John Rolls.
First, I wanted to say I'm excited to see you, Wade. So happy you're back, and great to see everybody. So thanks for having us.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're here tonight to tell you about a program we got coming up here. UPN is planning Upton County Prevention Network. Do I need to talk about the Upton County Prevention Network, or are all of you familiar with it?
Familiar.
Very good. So on May 13th of this year, in the evening, from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m.-ish,
11, yeah.
we're planning a youth event on the Commons, calling it Untamed on the Commons. The local youth band Reasonably Untamed will be playing music, and then we'll finish later in the evening with a movie. Right now, we're talking about Spider-Man,
No way out.
No Way Home.
No way home.
Okay. To have that, and
Way out,
along with that, we'll, let's see, I don't have my notes playing very well here. We'll have some speakers probably talk about healthy choices, lifestyle choices and things like that, like UPN usually does.
Well, I think Regina Morales, you guys know Regina, she works for HHS. She'll be bringing the speakers. She usually does the programming for us, so, which is great. So we'll have some really good speakers.
See our local community police officers trying to source us some additional things like possibly vehicle extraction demonstration. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that. Apparently, there's also a conflicting event with the Montgomery County Police that same weekend, so we might be short on that sort of resource. But he's looking to see if anybody else might be able to help us out with that.
And that was a little more ideas kind of came forth when we met with Kathy Bupp, which was great. She came up with some great ideas, which we may or may not be able to afford, basically. So we're talking about maybe adding, she mentioned Zach Etheridge might be a good idea, maybe DJ, just kind of to get people moving and maybe get some dancers from the school. You know how Zach gets everybody kind of moving with the music, and then we can break, kind of like we did with Falcon Lane with the band, and then break with a bit of Zach, and back and forth, and then speakers, and then the movie, right? Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
planning on providing food. We're looking right now to source possible food trucks or other things like, have you talked to anybody about the walking tacos?
I guess the Methodist Church cannot do that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, that was
I
discussed.
think
but-
Link mentioned that, yeah. So but there's other things
So-
that Kathy mentioned, we just need to follow up on those.
So the
food
plan is to
trucks.
provide some food, and also we're, provide some things like frisbees and balls, so
Wiffle
that
balls.
spontaneous games can burst out in the commons there, and everybody can have a good time. So make a festival of it. What we're doing right now is we're preparing to go and ask the local merchants, businesses, have students go and present to them this document I have here, and ask them for $250 donations to put towards this. We also have a grant that is like a matching grant.
$2,000 grant from Collaboration Council, which is nice. That's gonna pretty much pay for the movie, which is great.
And so we wanted to come to,
See if you
Town
can
hall?
help us support this event as well.
Tell us what you think our funds will help you with.
Pardon?
Tell us what you think our funds, which are your funds, taxpayers' funds, what will they help you with? What will you be applying them to?
I think the
How will it
first,
defray the costs?
I think the first thing we'd want to be applying them to probably is the food, to paying for the food.
That would be what I would say, would be, the last big event we had was at the high school. We had 500 kids one day, and then 500 kids another day, and it was all about the food. When they heard there's food, they come and drove. So if we could maybe support a local restaurant, I was thinking, and maybe give gift certificates, or some food maybe on the common, something like that.
And just
Giving-
FYI, we just had our PBA basketball banquet, hundreds of people, and the White's Ferry Grill supplied all the food, and it was inexpensive and really good.
Kathy suggested White's
Yeah,
Ferry.
so I would just give you a heads up. They gave us a great deal too.
Yeah, she mentioned
So-
was it the subs? The 6
Did subs, they'll wrap them individually. They give you, like a section of, like 6 different types. And then they also had other, different items that they could offer as well too. So it was very good and inexpensive, so.
And something I'd like to kind of, I hate to say, but give away food, but that's how we had such a great attendance at the last one. We literally gave away food. But the nice thing about, would be we'd support a local restaurant or support a local, and then it's all supporting locally.
So how much are you guys requesting? We know it was 250, 2,500. Tell me what everything that went through town hall. What was it? 25,000. It was something. It has decimal point kept moving. Which one was it?
Well, as the story goes, we were not prepared to ask for money when we came here to meet with Patty, with Kathy. We came to talk about organizing the day. And then the opportunity for a grant came up, and we had this in hand that said $250 on it. So we weren't clear that we should be asking for more than that, so there was a little confusion. And so that, we settled on that because that was the number that Bobby saw.
Right.
And then I had too much coffee and went into Bobby's office, and she's like, "What? You people need to leave." So,
It doesn't take much for her to do that, so that it could have one cup of coffee probably could have done
so
that.
yeah, it was just one of those days,
Yeah.
and it was
All
good
right.
times. So
Go ahead,
We're happy
Jeff.
to take as much
Yeah.
money as you want to provide, but we did ask for.
25,000.
Highest possible limit on the grant request.
We did
Okay,
ask for
write that down.
250, so that was,
We
and
did ask
then
for
you'd be in the
250.
same boat as all the
Yeah.
merchants that we're going to hit up.
Understood that, and that's a very good request. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, no, I was just going to say, this is clearly a very important event, and certainly something that the town wants to support, in my opinion. I was just wondering if we had any kind of a number that might cover the food, because I don't know if that's going to be the big chunk of money, or somewhere, maybe the movie is a bigger expense, I don't know. But it seems to me if we could cover something, the food, and then that would help out a lot, I hope.
Well, I can tell you for our banquet, which might draw about the same amount of people, we had about $1,000 just in the sandwiches alone. So maybe that's probably an appropriate request that could help us provide that. I'm not trying to lead you down a path here, but I know that's how it works.
$1,000 would be wonderful.
Yeah.
We would be so grateful.
had in mind, Jeff?
I really didn't have a number in my mind, but in that vicinity, probably, I was thinking 1,500, 2,000, because I don't know how many kids are going to be, or what.
Yeah.
We're hoping
Yeah.
a lot, but
yeah,
we'll
sure.
have this
It's also
first-time
being-
event, so we'll
Yeah,
have to see.
and
We're
weather
working.
dependent too.
Also, just to let you know, that we're working with Meg Cotton, who's a graphic designer, so soon we'll have things beautifully designed with people's logos, and it's all gonna look great. But right now, we're just trying to get it sorted out.
I can say that band Reasonably Untamed was very popular at Falcon Lane when they played there, and they had a huge gathering of the high school youth there.
Yeah, music, free food,
Yeah.
you got it. Go ahead.
I think it's a great idea. I think, I love the way, I remember when we first started talking about it and just looking at what to do several months ago, and then just watching it evolve to where it is now. And I think that if, Jeff, along with your thinking in terms of food, and we're thinking about something for our community and especially for our youth, who we're trying to target, who typically don't have a lot of part-time jobs and can't just really buy a lot of food from vendors and so forth. So I think that if there's something that we could do to support the youth as well as some of our local businesses here, be it White's Ferry, given the hardship they've had with the ferry, I think that would be a good idea. Not telling you who to choose as your vendor, but I would be in support of much more than a $250.
So wait, have we provided any funding? We have not had a line item for UPN, or have we? What have we done for them?
Not for a while.
Yeah.
That we did a couple of years ago. But
Right.
typically, this would be fall in the category of a mini grant, which is up to $1,000.
I'd be in favor of $1,000 grant. It's up to you guys if you think you want to push for more. We have the money, but I think that's reasonable and fair to the other people that asked too.
So do you need a motion?
Sure. Yeah, no, we can keep it right there unless we want to have them tell us more. Like, what kind of sandwich specifically are you going to have? I need roast beef and pepperoni sounds good. No mayonnaise. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ed. You have a motion on the floor to make a grant to the UPN network for
Right,
UPN.
I would like to make a motion for a $1,000 mini grant for UPN to provide the food for their event.
Coming out of our discretionary
Yes.
grant fund specifically. Okay,
coming
very
out
good.
of
So
our
we have a
grant
motion for $1,000 to the UPN from Jeff. Motion made by Ed. Anybody else? Sorry, I'm used to saying Jeff. Anybody else have a second to that motion?
A second by Jeff.
There we go. Exactly. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Great. Okay, all those in favor of making that grant possible, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And since you already put a collar on me for $250 on Sunday, then at least you walk away with $1,250 tonight.
Woo!
So,
And Tom Kettler's here, you know.
congrats. Oh, there you go. Holy
Let's see who else
smokes.
we're gonna hit up.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you very much.
No, I've done that for other things, but not on this one.
Thank you, guys.
But thank you for that. You got me in trouble last time we did this. I
We're very
appreciate
excited
that.
about this.
Yes.
It's been
You
several
guys-
years since we've been able to do anything.
Super excited. I know you're going to turn it's going to be a lot of hard work. we're super appreciative of what you guys do for the community, and it's going to make it does make a big difference, and it'll be great to see everybody out there, and I definitely plan on being there. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you again.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Well done, you guys. Keep up the good work. Wade, why don't you take us on this next one?
Sure, so what you have in front of you should be or was sent out, the list of volunteers to be reappointed to different boards, and all boards, Ethics, Board of Zoning Appeals, Parks and Streets, they all have different times that they do serve in these different boards, but this is here. Everybody who had reached out to said they wanted to volunteer and keep their positions, so.
Yeah, so the various board heads have all reached out to the people. We're behind on this, but it's really an error of omission more than anything else. Some of these you can see they've expired they would have expired already have expired. So we're basically doing a blanket reapproval of all of the members that needed reapproving. You can see the ones that aren't due on the second page that haven't needed to be reapproved. And the Fair Access Committee is adding a member, Adam Soroka, which has been vetted out by the committee, but also, too, we thank Catherine Beliveau for her long-term service as she's stepping away from the board. She's been a great member of it. So you can see the list of volunteers to be reappointed and one to be appointed, and open to any questions or discussion on this. None?
Don't we usually do an interview process for new appointees?
You could have had the resume for Adam Soroka has been submitted for a while, and I guess we could have had a interview process, but the committee itself actually talked to him directly and was happy with his.
Well, and Fair Access isn't
bringing.
technically a government entity, so we don't have to, so this board wouldn't have any reason to interview them, is that right?
Well, we're an established committee by the town, but it's not a written protocol that's how the interviews go. All parties have to be interviewed for each one of the committees. So as I said, we're not trying to change policy and move this off to the committee heads. In fact, we had this discussion this week about this, whether this would turn into something that would be that the committees themselves would have a chance to vet their members out before they came to the commissioners. But this was just a matter of that. This has actually been an appointment that's been hanging for a couple months now. And because of, just for a matter of expediency, we're down a member. The committee felt he was okay to be brought on without having to have a formal vote by the commissioners. So.
But wouldn't that be weird if like the planning commission came to you and said, well, somebody's leaving, and but we all decided amongst ourselves that we were gonna just hire somebody? I mean, like.
No, that's agreed. And if that was the case, then that would be something that we would definitely want our boards to participate. I mean, the commissioners to vote on.
I saw his resume. I don't have any problem with him. He seems fine, but it seems like we should, be consistent in our processes.
I'm still very much okay too, but I don't know if we can do this without notice. Can we call for an executive session tonight after this meeting and then have this appointment, or am I missing something here?
We usually better give notice if we're going to do an executive session talking about it. So
Okay.
it'd be better not. But the two boards that Martin brought up as the Planning Commission, the other one is Board of Zoning Appeals, those aren't really your boards. They're state created, so they're different. But the rest are your boards, and you can kind of do, if the
Right.
members vetted themselves, that wouldn't be terrible. But Planning Commission and BZA, there's a process in state law about how it does.
Very good. Okay, so we're not, and then our reappointments to those boards, we're not in violation of any of those processes. We're overdue.
You're not in violation of any, and all of our boards say that the members serve until they're either replaced or reappointed, so they're just continue on, and there's no requirement that you interview. That was something that is unique usually to Poolesville on some of these, especially when they're reappointing the same people.
Right. Okay, very good. Understood. So I yield to the board. Said we've had Adam's resume for quite some time, and I know that our board would like to bring him on board. But if this board feels like that we have to still have a process for this one appointment, then that's fine by me too. It's up to you guys if you want to go that direction. I'll yield to the consensus of the board for his appointment, and to have to schedule a private interview, I would imagine 2 weeks from now again. We've had the vacancy for some time, and it's been a couple months that he's been hanging.
I mean, I don't know, like, I know when the events committee hires, like, or not hires somebody, but when the events committee gets a new volunteer, this board doesn't interview them. So it'd be nice to have consistency, but I guess,
I'm also fine with making.
we've all seen the resume, and personally, I don't have any problem with it.
And I'm perfectly good, again, with a consensus for tonight, if the consensus is to make this appointment for tonight, and then we probably should have a discussion, save it for another meeting, on how we handle this process in the future, just to double check. I know that we have to follow our legal obligations that are non-town, that are above us for those other boards, but not necessarily for our own town-specific boards.
I mean, aside from this, this situation, Wade, I wonder if it's worth, talking to Antisha and company about, should we redo the way we do our boards, like re-up people on the boards, or are we good to go the way it is? I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes we don't see what other towns are doing, and what if there might be a better way to do it. And just throwing things out. But as far as this person goes, I mean, I have no problem with approving them tonight, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, I'd still like to do that if possible.
what do you guys think?
Yeah, let's see here. I'm comfortable going with it, approving them tonight, but then I think we should have a discussion just in terms of how we're gonna operate, just to make sure that we're all on that same page of consistency. And so, then the other part too, in terms of just looking at what other groups might do in interviewing boards, and the whole process, what I look at is what are the results? Because on one hand, we can compare ourselves. It is good to know what other folks are doing, but in that research, just look at what is that result? What is the effectiveness? And then I think if we have, with our committees and boards here, are they able to achieve their desired outcome? Are they fulfilling those purpose of being in existence?
I mean, it never hurts to to step back and things we've been doing the same way for 20 years or whatever. Maybe they're fine as is. I'm not saying you have to change them for the sake of changing them, but it never hurts to just take a look and see if there's other ways to do it that might be more beneficial.
And also to our processes that we've been going through, we're back on before we had quite a few additional boards and volunteer groups that are now enveloped into the town. So again, I'm very much in favor of having a further discussion on, get past tonight and have a further discussion on how we appoint these boards and committees, specifically making sure we follow our state guidelines for for the Planning and Board of Zoning Appeals, and then have it be, maybe we make a decision where that resumes are circulated, and unless somebody has an objection to that person, then we can vote to appoint those people at the next meeting. So, I'm not suggesting we can have that discussion at a later date, but that's my compromise. Okay, so, then we have this slate that's here and includes Adam. We could either break away and do all of our appointments and then do a separate vote for Adam to be appointed, and I think that's as clean as we'll get. So could someone make a motion for all of the reappointments?
Well, I'm not on the Fair Access Committee, but I can make a motion to reappoint all the incumbents onto their next same position.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion to reappoint all the folks that are on this list. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Martin. All those in favor of the reappointments, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Opposed?
One opposed. Okay, the vote passes 4-1. All those people are considered to be reappointed. For the appointment of Adam Soroka to the Fair Access Committee, can I get a motion for that appointment?
And the Fair Access Committee already approved the person?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I make a motion that Mr. Soroka be added to the Fair Access Committee.
Great. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Motion made, second by Jeff, second by Ed. All those in favor of that appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed. Adam's appointed 4-1. Okay, guys, thank you for good discussion on that, and we'll bring that up, and I'll get with Wade on when that gets on the agenda next, so we can kind of have some paperwork in front of us on that. All right, very good. Water rates for pools. Go ahead again, Wade.
Sure, I think there was a conversation that started with our social media campaign as we were putting that information about the water rates going up, and a lot of people concerned about, paying water only when the water and sewer rate is for both. And actually, the water is 40%, while the sewer is 60% of the cost, if you were to break it down. And so Jim asked me, what kind of process would we have in place? Now, we used to do this a long time ago. People would just call in on our system and give us their meter reader number, and then they'd fill the pool up and then call us back with the new number, and that's the way it went. I don't think that's the way we should do it now. So, more in line to what other people do in the industry. I recommend if we decide that we're gonna go ahead and do a water-only rate for filling swimming pools, that we have residents check out a sub-meter, allow it to go out for 2 days. They would have a refundable $100 deposit, and then once they return, the resident would be charged $9 per 1,000 gallons of water used at that moment.
That's your recommendation?
That's, if we're going to vote it in, that would be my recommendation of how the procedure that we use.
And is that similar to what WSSC does?
It's exactly.
Okay.
And Rockville, and I looked at like 3 or 4 different places.
So it's $9 a gallon?
Right, so really your water, yes,
$9 a thousand.
per 1,000.
$9 per 1,000 gallons of water used.
Expensive to fill a pool.
Yeah. Just FYI to everybody too, this was something that we did do in the past. We got away from it for whatever reason. And part of the concern, part of the conversations Wade and I had about this was that it could not be, I did not want it to be a burden on town staff. And we did not want to go to where like town staff had to go install this meter, which basically screws on the end of a hose, install the meter, watch the people fill the pool, take the meter off, read it. That's not what it's about. So we do have it down that the meters are read and calibrated ahead of time. They go out to the homeowner. The policy again says that there's a 2-day time frame. We kind of talked about it, how long was the right amount of time to do it. And then the refundable deposit covers the cost of the meter, hopefully, if it's, something were to be damaged or it's not returned. So it's pretty clear cut and it's easy. And as far as we're concerned, there's really no burden on town staff besides the people calling ahead of time and checking it out.
Wait, that curiosity, how many sub-meters do we have?
Well, we just take a regular meter, like a regular house meter that we carry in stock, and we'd have fittings that we put on it. So, yeah. And from a financial perspective, it's minimal impact to what we would be using anyways, because not that many people. Literally, there you go.
I have a question, Wade. The meter that's often on the floor in here that you're attached to a hydrant, is that something different?
Yes, that's the hydrant meter itself. It has a 2.5-inch.
Yeah, and is that $9 per 1,000 gallons?
Well, yes, if a contractor does check that out, yes, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Again, they have to call ahead of time. There is a procedure. That's what it's used for, period. It's different than the one that we talk about that the residents use in terms of the fittings.
How much potential is there for cheating on this? I mean, is it sort of a semi-honor system?
Yeah, I mean, either the meter spins or it doesn't spin. Those are the smart meters. We can tell exactly, hook up to the laptop and say, oh, exactly when it went. And
So somebody couldn't like fill some of it and then unscrew the meter and then fill the rest?
no, so what happens? They're gonna bring
Great.
that reading in. They're gonna say, okay, I use 10,000 gallons, and then we put it in the program in Maggie's system there, and it takes 10,000 gallons off of their regular water bill. If they screw it off, it still goes to that house meter, so they'll be paying water and sewer both.
Great. No, that's perfect. Thank you.
So they shouldn't want to, at least. I'm sure some people will try and think of some avenues there, but it's as said, it's by reduction, so it's a good thing. All right, very good. So, Wade, for this, this will just be a procedure that's going to be written into our water rates that we already had a public hearing on tonight. So it's a procedure that would be, if it by consensus of the commissioners, would be adopted into, assuming that our water rates are approved, into that.
I mean, I think when you do your water rate policy, right,
Right.
you're gonna adopt it.
Yeah.
That it should be part of that. And you'll
Okay.
do that by motion.
Great, right, understand. So as long as there's a consensus here at the board tonight that this is a direction we want to go, then we'll take that up with our next meeting.
Just one more question, Wade. WSSC you said is $9 a gallon, or $9 per 1,000 gallons?
Yes, for hydrant
Okay.
use.
All right. Thank you.
The water only rate is much less, it's like $6.
Okay, very good. So any other questions for Wade on this or the direction we're going? Do we have a consensus? This is where we're going to move forward on the next. Everybody's okay with including this in the next water rate
I am, yeah.
vote? Okay, very good. Thank you, Wade. Thanks for your work on this. Jay, thanks for the clarification. Very good. Farmers market discussion. Okay. So, Wade, you can take it again if you want to.
Well, we all want to talk about a farmer's market. We reached out and we talked to Lori Savage and I forget the other principal.
And our partner, right, whoever, I can't remember her name either,
so,
but.
So they are ready to roll this year with their market. They have their vendors lined up they had last year. But I think the discussion was, does the town want to run it? They need some insurance help. Jay's actually does some homework, so I'm going to hand it all off to him.
So the question that came to me was about the insurance, because that seems to be the holdup, or at least the barrier at this point. And so the initial guidance that I gave was that typically when you use town facilities, you have to have insurance. The town has its own insurance. So we just use the example of you're going to have something out front here that's town property, and if somebody trips and falls during the event and sues the town has coverage for negligence and liability. We also have governmental immunity. We have lots of things as is a government function. So we have insurance for us, but we aren't going to be able to insure other people under our insurance policy, no matter what. So now the event out there, somebody gets hurt on one of the Christmas rides, and they want to sue somebody about that. Sure, they can sue us. We have insurance for us. But the ride person, the one who was probably negligent first, we wouldn't be covering him. In fact, we would be probably against them, because if they were the ones who were negligent, we would go after them. So it's typical that we require those people to have their own liability insurance policy. So that's pretty straightforward. And that seems to create a barrier at this point in time. So when I used the farmer's market idea, I said, well, maybe somebody's going to have a canopy, and the canopy is going to get loose and blow across the place and hit somebody. If they sue us, we're covered with insurance, but if they sue them, they better have insurance. And the question becomes, if we're allowing this, shouldn't we be requiring them to have insurance? Like, prove it to us that you have insurance. You do that with baseball, you do that with other events and things like that. So that was the initial guidance. That's the guidance I still give. So I reached out to a friend of mine who is the farmer's market manager for the city of Westminster. They have one that's been there for 30 years. And, you know, the guidance that she gave is, she knows we're kind of trying to start like an incubator, but it's either one way or another. Either the town's going to run it, and it's going to be on town property, and they have like a form you got to fill out. They have a goal statement where it's just not anybody, like it might not just be crafts, it might have to be growers, producers. It's a big deal. All checks that get paid for spaces get paid to the town. All checks that get paid for expenses come from the town, you know, another level. And they require insurance, or you're just not doing it. End of story. They also say, and again, this is in a different county, but if you're providing food products, they require you to show that those products are made in a health department approved kitchen and licensed, or whatever that means. So it just can't be, we're going to roll down there with our homemade salsa. We have to show, before we're allowed to exhibit there, that we have that. And we have to have our own insurance policy for that, because if somebody got sick because they ate it, that's, again, not on the town. And I realize that's like a lawyer thing where I'm bringing it down, but that is the threshold. And could you ignore that threshold? Certainly, at our own risk. And that's what insurance is about, is to minimize the risk of these things happening. So Westminster said that they've been doing this for 30 years. They moved it to indoors in the winter. It's that popular. They had some other ideas about the minimum number of vendors that you should have to make it successful and things like that. So she kind of made it sound like it was an all-in effort. Like, either you're going to put effort behind it and you're going to try to make it grow with a minimum of like 10 vendors and do it this way, or it's probably not going to work. And the town probably should say, look, you can't use town property. You have to do it somewhere else. So that's my homework. That's what you want me to cover.
Thank you, sir, for your homework.
Let me throw one more thing. This is going to confuse it, though. With craft...
This is where you should have stopped.
Oh, I
right?
should have, but I really want to give you...
No, that's right. Give us a well-rounded picture.
Not the city now. The county has one of these, and it's crafts. So when you go to a farmer's market and you're expecting to buy like corn and stuff like that, and then they got the people that you can't find vegetables because it's all these crafts and things like that. If it's crafts, the county has a way that the vendor themselves can pay a fee, and that fee can go towards buying an insurance policy that the county somehow creates and buys on their behalf. So if you have 20 vendors, it's $100 a piece, and you're covered for that event on that property. But it's crafts only. It's not food, because the liability for food is too difficult to cover. Right. So that's the reality of the world we live in. You got to insure the risks, and they said they'd be happy to talk to us, reach out to us, whatever we need. But I stopped there.
Thank you for that. So, Commissioner, I'm open to all discussion on this as we stand. My quick opinion, to maybe lead off the conversation, everybody else can feel free to chime in, is that, first of all, I'm very appreciative of Lori and Elsie Elise, to bring in, to do what they need to do to help kick off this farmers market and organize it to the best of their abilities. Very appreciative of it, and super encouragement behind their efforts too. I would probably like to see us the town's already done this once and it didn't work out for us. And as Jay said, like all in, and we were probably 3/4 in when we did it ourselves back in the day. I'd like to see how these guys, if they can develop some sort of momentum for this, and if they can, and first of all, we don't drop our insurance requirements, period. That we just don't do that. They need to do that. If it's worthwhile for us to try and gather it and help them turn it into something, I'm not opposed to that talk about it, but I just think our history is, A, it hasn't worked, and B, I love the private stewardship of the people that are going to provide leadership behind it. And that's just where I leave it right now, and I'm open to anybody's discussion on it.
So the request from the farmers market folks, because I'm not clear about that, was that Poolesville would provide the space, would be Wayland Commons, and Poolesville would provide the insurance, right? And they would do everything else?
She just said that they were having difficulty with the insurance aspect of it.
Right, so that, I guess that assumes it'll be held on town property, which is probably right out front here.
And there's an additional hurdle that in that email I saw is when we say they, we're using that very vague, there's no organization. It's they as a bunch of individuals. It's not a company, a partnership. So that would be important if you use them as the contact. My one example with Westminster, there is no they, it's all Westminster. So there isn't another outside group that's doing it.
So in essence, what we're doing is we're allowing the Savages or the organizers to use town property to conduct events, as it would be. That's how it would stand. I think that's how it stands right now. We don't charge, right? They're just using town property as, well, they're not residents either, but they're using it to hold events of some sort. I don't know how else to even define how it works beyond that.
That's similar to what you do with baseball.
Okay.
It was vague in the emails because I didn't have a lot as to whether they charge.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know.
Which is another layer of an issue, is if we're letting people use town property and they're taking town property and charging people to come here, and the money goes to them for organizing it. It would be like if I rented all the pavilions and then I'm subleasing them to people who want to have picnics. That's not quite what we'd go after for public property.
Right. And I did have a concern about that too, in terms of the folks, like if we go through this either halfway or 2/3 of the way or 3/4 of the way, we don't go all in, as you said, that the money is also a situation too. Who's making the money? Not opposed to anybody making money, but in terms of the use of the public property to make money. I mean, it's still, I'm sympathetic to what they're trying to do. And I've told them, that I would still love to see it happen, and we would promote it, and we would, try to stand behind them. But the whole idea of insurance and us all in and the forms and trying to us be the ones to do something that we've already done again that we've already tried once. I'm not just sure, that just doesn't get me going for some reason.
How does it work when they, because I know there's the craft market, right? Everyone comes with a little pop-up tent and selling whatever. How does that work? Does each person who has a little pop-up tent has insurance?
So the big flea, that's a town-sponsored event. I'm not sure, well, no one, because we're residents, so I don't know, you speak to that, Jay?
I'm not aware of the facts on other cases, but when it's a town-sponsored event, the town is covered. It's just not the individuals are covered.
Yeah.
So that's still the issue here, is that if you were, take it from just a bystander. I drive along, I see you have this event, it's on town property, it's advertised by the town, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna think there's maybe an elevated standard that you use, since it's a town event, or appears to be a town event, that people are properly insured and things are safely set up, and I may see a public work guy picking up the trash, and so it's gonna give all the indicia of a town event. Not to have us make someone have insurance is almost, I'll use attractive nuisance, but it's not in the legal sense. It's almost a bait and switch then. That's why it's so critical. And I'm not sure how the other places have the same issue, but again, the insurance protects them. It protects us secondarily. They would still require to have their own insurance if you were gonna have a town. So like when you have a food truck, I mean, I've been to your Christmas things, you have the rides and the food truck. Those people, they come, they gotta provide us with insurance certificates, and they usually name us as an additional insured. I mean, it gets beyond just, I have insurance, I have insurance, and you're an additional insured. And for the business-type people, that's easy, because it doesn't cost them anything more. They carry that with their thing. And that's the level that you're getting, is that, are you getting somebody that grew vegetables in their backyard, or are you getting somebody who does this as a agrarian type of business, agriculture business?
Hey, wait, does Kathy check the food vendors?
Yes,
for
they're all
insurance?
licensed, they have to have certificates
Good.
from the health
Yep.
department and
Yeah,
all that.
good.
yeah.
So I guess as part of this boils down to, like, how much of an amenity do we consider the farmer's market? How much we want to invest in it? Or do we want to just kind of keep it like, it's their thing, let them do it? And I'm kind of torn, because there's part of me that thinks it's a great asset for the residents to have a farmer's market to go to. And I've been to some farmers markets that are just great social events, and there's a lot of energy, and they have like bands playing, and it's like a big to do on Saturday morning or whatever. And I think that'd be a neat thing to see here, but I don't know that there's the market for it, or so I'm kind of torn here.
One more question, Wade. Did the farmers market people request the town of Poolesville to buy their insurance, or did they ask for money and they could buy their own insurance? Is that a possibility?
So
Would you
they have
give-
never requested anything. They've just pretty much, I reached out to them to say, give me a little bit more information on what you're looking for. And they basically stated that getting insurance, and getting insurance from the people that are, the people basically want to come set up tents and sell their wares without license or without insurance.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
while some of the people that are providing those things do have it, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily that all of them do. And they were looking for some sort of blanket coverage, and Jay gave a pretty good explanation of the blanket coverage. So, we get, anything that we do, we can only cover ourselves. And
And that was why I gave you the last example. Again, you're stepping off from where you are, you're starting to go more in, is that I guess we could talk to an insurer. It wouldn't be our insurer, because our insurer is a local government insurer that
Right.
depends on us having immunity for certain things, so it's a different type of insurance. But you could have event insurance, they sell that, and you could say, we're gonna do this, and this is gonna be the size, and they rate you, and the policy is this on these days, and it costs X. And that's what I was telling you the craft fair people do, and they divide the cost up, however, so that it's reasonable for somebody to pay. But these fees are not $20. I mean, on the form that I circulated to the town hall, it was like just $200 and some just to buy in, and you had to agree whether you're coming. It becomes more of a business type of operation, which is way we need to look at it if you want it to be successful and safe. So.
This probably needs further discussion and further consideration. I don't think, this seems like a pretty big decision. I don't know if we should be making it tonight.
So we pulled in some of this documentation and we'll circulate amongst all the commissioners for your consideration. And we're happy to keep it on the agenda, push it to the next go around. I don't want to push it off, but you can see it's not an easy, we can't just go, as Jay said, you have to like jump in with both feet if you're going to do it. And there's potentially some liabilities that we're going to have to, how about this, in the meantime, why don't you go ahead and, if you guys don't mind, just, if you can do a quick, figure out how much the event insurance is, and give us some round numbers on that. If you could do that, we could use it for the next meeting and keep it on the agenda.
That's a great idea.
And then we can at least have some parameters for what we're doing. So, and I do worry again about, trying to get food, the food vendor thing and the fresh, like the whole idea of a farmer's market. We really are kind of talking about a craft market is what it comes down to. So, anything else okay there? Any other change?
We already got everything but the answer for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's what I like. All right, anybody else want to contribute anything else to the discussion for tonight? No? Okay, very good. Thank you. Town manager's report?
Okay, so, towards the end of this month, I have, all the department supervisors will be doing, scheduled leadership training. So it's a couple days in a row they'll be doing that with Antisha, actually. They should put a program together for them. So that's good, yep. Also later this month, we have a 2-day web training seminar for, Kathy, Maggie, and myself for the website stuff, make improvements and do different things. So that's gonna be good. I actually sat down last week and developed a grant writing services RFP. We don't have the money this year to do that, but this should have been done first time the money went in, that whoever was the manager then should have written an RFP, to see what's out there. So I'm gonna send that out in May, and hopefully have it back and we can look at these proposals and see if 30,000 that we put in there is even on the mark or, what that's gonna get us. Yeah, so we'll see. But unless we do that, we're not gonna know. This last week, we also submitted a street state grant for Congressman Trone's FY23 community project funding. And every year he has that. He has 15 projects that he can get from his whole district, Maryland 6th District. So Streetscape was the one that we have kind of shovel-ready to meet the guidelines. So we'll see what happens there.
Get any feedback besides the fact that we didn't hear back on the last one? Do we know? I don't think so either. Okay, well, hopefully we didn't spend too much time on it, but we know it's shovel-ready, so.
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah.
Appreciate it.
We have been initiating some of the financial assessment recommended changes, even though QuickBooks is probably going to go to the wayside once we start working with Antisha more on this next system. But those financials are all now set up, and they go to the cloud every day. The multiple users, so I have my own password and code, so does Maggie, so it's all separated. We also did the same thing with the banking, so now I can just go online and I do the statements and give it to Bobby, so we're back to doing how we used to do it with paper a long time ago, but now everything's online, so we've got that squared away also. And as we talked about on email last week, the flashing crosswalk signs, we saw the aluminum poles actually tore. I sent you the picture, I think some of you saw the pictures also. We actually talked to Morningstar up here, and we're gonna get some black steel poles, and he's gonna make the bases, just like they're made, but it's gonna be out of steel, and he's gonna powder coat them, and we're gonna replace all 4, we'll do that. So I think we're gonna be able to have 3 of them back up and running, and then parts were, it's like 8-week lag on getting the parts for the one that has destroyed, so.
Have you put anything out on social media about that, about what happened to him or anything?
I have not.
I wonder if I'm not asking that you do or suggesting you do, but I wonder if that would make sense.
It does.
People have been asking and
We'll make something, since we have a direction now.
Yeah.
Yes, because we just today, President and I kind of put our heads together, like, we can't just buy aluminum poles again, because it's going to happen again.
Remind them to be extra careful because, the one walkway, the lights aren't there or whatever, so, yeah,
Well, both of them actually now, so.
right, good.
That's all I have.
Hey, Wade, just a question for you. Just and you might have already said it and I might have missed it, but any updates on the parking lot across the street, the Tractor Supply? You know where those cones are?
I'm not sure if that was taken care of Thursday and Friday. I didn't get a chance to check it today. Well, it rained, I think, that's why he probably did, but I will
So
contact
they
him
said
and see what's
they
going
said they
on.
would take care of that like soon.
Yes.
They repositioned the cones. Cones are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been repositioned to somebody else's.
I
place.
noticed
Okay,
when I
great.
was driving by there, another car had to quickly stop so they didn't hit the other car trying to come in, so.
Yeah, what the fix is gonna be, they're gonna remove the grates, and they're actually gonna fill that in and put a speed hump, a flat one, right there to divert the water into the landscape area, which was how it was supposed to work originally.
Tell them they might
But-
want to put the cones back. and-
Yes,
so
I will
there's no
contact
accident.
him tomorrow morning, first thing, so.
One other question, Wade, are there any more updates on the Old Methodist Church, the proposal to buy it, any progress there?
So they're moving through with the survey. They're moving through with the survey at the present time, but it's a very old piece of property. So what they're gonna have to do is develop the surrounding properties to tie it all together to figure out exactly what the existing piece of property is supposed to be. Because the original deed that goes back to the 1820s is not very clear.
And so the title search is on order and the appraisal also.
Did you see my email about the vandalism in Campbell Park?
I did see that, yes. Yep. There was a tree that was cut down. Did your husband make a report? No, we're gonna make a report, or Preston should have today, actually, but.
Oh, I was, yeah, thinking that you guys would. It's just very bizarre
Yes.
behavior.
It was, that's,
It wasn't,
Wind shear wasn't blown down.
no, it was cut. You can
No.
see by the picture it was cut,
Yeah.
definitely.
The picture looks like it should.
Very similar to the
Right.
crosswalk
Is that what you-
poles.
That's what I thought, wind shear.
Well, so it's like didn't somebody take the top of the Christmas tree out of the thing and run off with it this year?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that was a thing. Really? Yeah. Okay, very good. Wade.
Anything else? Anybody else? Questions for Wade? None? Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion from Martin, second. Second from Ed. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.